Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing another video talking about the general sense of GT7, and we're going to be answering the question, is GT7, Gran Turismo 7, the best game in the Gran Turismo series? Well, let's talk about it. So firstly, I'd like to say my inspiration for this video came from a video titled Why GT4 was the best game in the series. This was published before GT7 was released, so maybe it doesn't take into account GT7, or maybe GT4 is still the best in the series, who knows. This video is made by the Purple Guy 123, and I'll put a video or a link to it in the description and a photo of it on the screen. It's a very good video. And yeah, that kind of serves as my inspiration for this video, so if they're quite similar you can understand why I haven't copied it, but you know. Secondly, not many of you are subscribed, so please do subscribe. Try and get to 500 subs. Not only as a lifetime goal, because I obviously hit 100 quite recently, but also like to get monetized. I've really started upping the effort I'm putting into these videos, so nice, you know, be nice if it was appreciated. Thank you for the views and the likes and all the comments and stuff in the last two videos. I know the track tier list went a little bit better than I expected, and the second or the last video went much better than expected. I was expecting about 30 views. I got like 300. So thanks for that. Thanks for getting me up to 355 subscribers. But yeah, enough of me waffling. Let's get into the video. So first, we're going to be breaking this down into about 4 or 5 different categories. Starting off with the cars, what GT is known for in the single player. Some about cars, the campaign, some extra kind of single player stuff. And then one other thing I'd like to talk about, which I'll explain later, and then we're going into the multiplayer kind of aspect afterwards. Obviously, I know GT4 doesn't have, but there we go. So, like I said, starting off with the cars, and we're going to be talking about 5 separate things about cars. These being the quality of the cars, the quantity of the cars, so the amount of them, the choice of the cars, so what I feel about the cars that are in the game, how the cars feel, and obviously how they sound. So yeah. Let's get into the quantity of cars first. So let's just have a look at the cars in this game and see if the quantity still holds up, really. So in terms of quantity, this game, I must say, isn't very good. It gets completely overshadowed by Gran Turismo 6 massive 1,200 cars. But even compared to the 2005 GT4, it's still 250 less. Now, it's quite disappointing considering they had 9 years to develop this game. And although some cars have been added since launch, I know there was an update a couple of days ago, the Renault, the Renault 4 or something like that. Yeah, the Evo 8 or something, and the Audi TT. Although some cars have been added since launch, it's still a bit underwhelming. You know, about 400 to 500 cars. Because at 9 years, it's just not the best. But let's talk about the quality of those cars, though. So, in my opinion, in terms of the quality of those cars, it's completely unmatched. There were 474 premium cars in GT6, and this is out of a total of 1,200 cars in the game. But in GT7, every single car is a premium. So for those of you that don't know what a premium car is, it's a car that has a completely detailed interior. So you can go on the interior view and have a look around in it, you know, completely in detail. There's so much attention to detail in each individual car. I mean, I'll show you and talk about this a bit later when we're covering the photo mode. But also the exterior of the cars look amazing in this game. The reflection of the lights and, you know, that kind of stuff, it just looks amazing. So while the amount of cars may seem slightly underwhelming, especially at launch, the amount of detail they put into each individual car is completely unmatched. So we're kind of bad quantity but very good quality. I think it kind of evens out and ends up being average, I'd say. But now let's talk about the choice of cars in the game. So I must say GT7 does have a pretty good choice of cars, but it is unable to match that of GT6 and GT4. But there are still some bangers in GT7, the Suzuki Scudo, the Nissan Skyline Super Silhouette, the Bugatti Chiron, the Porsche 918, and the Lexus LFA, just to name a few. They're some of my favourites. I know some of you may have other cars like the Aston Martin Valkyrie or whatever that you prefer, but we can all agree that they have added some bangers. Recently started implementing some newer cars, such as the Porsche 911 GT3 RS. I love that car, from 2022. I do hope this trend continues, but honestly I kind of doubt it. I doubt we'll get many 2020s cars, but there we go. But we should still be grateful for what we have, obviously. Now, it is good to have a race is good for racing games to have cars from all decades. Now, it's quite a rare sight nowadays, but this is something that GT4 and I feel GT series in general nails perfectly. And this, particularly with GT4, could attribute to why so many people do like the game. You had the Ford Model T, the Mercedes stuff, and obviously right up until the year before the launch. But yeah, let's talk about the feel of the cars. Okay, so one thing that is running the series, and I know the guy in the GT4 video talks about, is that each car does feel unique, whether that's race cars or normal everyday cars. So as you can see with this Shelby here, the classic American muscle cars, like the one on screen, they are quite fast for their time, but they have terrible brakes and they handle like boats. The Honda Civic Touring car, on the other hand, handles very well, but is quite sluggish really. Porsche 911 GT3 RS handles both very well and is quite fast on the straights, but it can lack some top speed. The GT3 cars correct this, but are limited to the fact that they're race cars. And as expected, the LMP cars and the Tomahawk and that lot have insane downforce and insane speed. In all fairness to the series, they have nailed this aspect of getting every car to feel different, whether that's mid-engine, front-wheel drive, that lot. They've done that since day one in GT1. This is unlike a certain other series that I know. But now let's talk about something that has kind of dragged the GT games down their kind of weak spot, the car sounds. Now I must admit the sounds from GT4 and before that were quite terrible. Have a listen. But the sounds in the V8, V12 and V10 and the W16 for that matter, Now I saw a quote on Reddit, I'll put it on screen if I can find it, which says what I think sums up GT7 perfectly, and that is Kaz is making an art in the form of a video game. I do agree with that. I think everything within the cars, is making it art. Pagani Huayra looks insane, which is very good, and I could see some people saying, it's really good for that because of that. But at the end, he has kind of forgotten he is making a video game, so make of that what you will. While on the topic of cars, I just want to talk about the obtainability of cars. So the main system of obtaining cars has remained the same, obviously, since Gran Turismo 1. To get a car, you have to go out and buy one. GT7 is similar, albeit a little bit more complicated. So rather than the dealership where you can buy everything like in GT3, you now have to buy normal old cars in the used car dealership like GT4 and older games, but now they're rare and exclusive cars to the Legend dealership, and newer cars are obviously bought in the car dealership, I think. Yeah, so there's three kind of separate things. I don't really like the Legend dealership. I've explained that why before, but you only have a limited time frame to get them, but they also demand a much higher price than usual. Well, I think this new system is buying cars, depending on whether they're rare, new or old. Maybe a bit complex for some people, but I think it is slightly more realistic. Let me know what you think. However, there's one thing I do miss about the old game, particularly GT4. So I remember when in Gran Turismo 3 or Gran Turismo 4, where you do a long kind of championship and get a free car at the end. It'd be that kind of spin where the cars would be under the cover from GT3. I remember that specifically. I'll put a little clip on the screen. It was really cool. And yeah, we'll get a free car at the end. What happened to that? Seriously. We kind of have an alternative now in the form of roulette spins, but I don't really think they're comparable. These rarely actually have any cards on it, and it's mainly just 5,000 credits. And the chances of you actually winning one of those cars are minimal. And to top it off, the cars you win aren't actually very good. Like this one, I won a Ford or Toyota safety car or something. Please, Polyphony Digital, bring this back. So now let's talk about the customization for these cars. Now I do believe we're taking a step forward in the tuning customization aspect of this game, the series in general. I'm not saying that the old games were bad, I'm just saying I think GT7 has nailed it perfectly. The old one had, the main kind of tuning parts, so different tyres, different turbos, exhaust, engine, NA tuning, that lot. The GT7 version, though, does have a lot more to offer. So let's take this Jag XJ220 and see what we can do with it. So as you can see, we have the same basic tuning from the previous games, although it is unavailable for this car. Had I been a slightly slower car, we could have applied it. So once we get started to this higher level kind of upgrades, we can actually install them, and it does massively boost up the power and performance of the car. There are some new additions to the tuning shop in this game. These being the body rigidity. This makes the car more stable at high speeds. Like I said, it's essential for top speeds. Ballast and power restrictor, these are really good, and these are good for quickly being able to detune your car. The brake balance controller and the anti-lag are very good for kind of altering the feel of your car. Nitrous for drag racing and that kind of boost of power. And then you can buy a new engine, new body, which resets everything to default settings, and some drifting parts if you want to do drifting. Like I said earlier, I'm quite impressed with this new tuning shop. But what about the GT Auto? Well, once again, it's basically the same as the old games. The animations have progressively been getting worse throughout the years. I'll show a quick comparison of getting the oil change into the same cars between GT3 and GT7. You can see what I mean. But yeah, we have the car wash, as you can see, being demonstrated on screen. Much better. You've got the oil changes, and you've got the typical other stuff like the engine overhaul. But the new additions in this game are the engine swap and the wide body. In the XJ220, we can swap the. In the XJ220, we can swap the original engine out, and we can swap a new one in. This is the V6 from the XJR9. I hope I'm right, the purple and white one. V12 actually. And this will give the engine a bit more power, albeit a little bit heavier. But it is nice just to be able to have multiple engines to choose from. Now, if I switch to this Supra, you can see the effects of wide body on a car. Look at that. I must admit though, I think Forza does have better wide bodies. They can have that point. As for the additional body mods, you can still change the wheels and attach other stuff to your car. The wheel menus kind of remain the same as long as I can remember. And yeah, you've got the traditional kind of body hooks and spoilers and that lot. So let's now talk about the campaign. So, yeah, you may have seen I did a video on this talking about the tracks in GT7. I mentioned earlier. The video did very well. So I know this is quite a divided topic on what people think their favourite tracks are, but I'll speak more generally. So I think the tracks have suffered the same fate as the cars have, to be honest. And that is they've sacrificed quantity in return for quality. So it went from 51 tracks in GT4 to 37 tracks in GT7 nearly 20 years later. So not only are they not moving forwards, but they're actually going backwards in terms of the amount of tracks. But yet again, the attention to detail in these tracks is unmatched, and some of the photos captured on these tracks are so good they just look exactly like real life. One thing that I particularly noticed is that GT7 has a lot more real tracks if you did. Gone are the days of us mainly getting fictional tracks with a couple of real ones mixed in. Now we're switched, we mainly get real ones with a couple of fictional tracks being thrown in. I'm not sure whether this is a good thing or not. Fictional circuits like Autumn Ring and Apricot Hill are gone and have been replaced with the likes of Catalunya and Red Bull Ring. My guess is they want to appeal to kind of a broader audience, so people who come from the F1 series, the Forza Motorsport, etc. course, and can easily move on. And these tracks are kind of universal, whereas Apricot Hill and Autumn Ring are very much exclusive to the GT7 series. So I just wanted to say, do you think this is a step forwards or a step backwards? I can see some people saying it allows for, like I said, easier transition into the GT series, but it also removes the character of the series that it once had. So yeah, I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that one. Now let's talk about the career mode for both games. So let's start with the better one of the two, GT4. So as you can see on the screen, there was multiple leagues with plenty of races per league, and the campaign had a general kind of direction to go in. It was a pretty long campaign if you include all of the extras, but it was still replayable in many different ways. May have seen on YouTube people trying to complete the campaign with only one car, or only cars that they've won, or things like that. But now let's look at GT7. Yeah, there isn't really a campaign as such. It has some menus from the CAF, which I'll talk about a bit later, and these kind of serve as a guidance, but it doesn't really have a proper campaign. Essentially lets you unlock all of the races, then lets you do whatever you want with them. Now, if you're kind of a content creator like me, it's okay, but for the average person who kind of wants a direction to go in, it may get a bit boring. There isn't really direction, and with the campaign there have been some extra menus added, but this has got even worse as you kind of ascend in power roughly, and then you end up doing less powerful cars at the end. It's just a bit of a mess, to be honest with you. So yeah, the amount of races that GT7 has is okay. I mean, the main bulk of the races are, the classic GT races, or the Group 4 and Group 3 races, which I know GT7 really focuses on. They do have some returning faces in the form of the Sunday Cup, the FR Championships of different difficulty, the Schwarz World League. I hope I'm saying that right. It's kind of German stuff. And obviously the turbo races. However, I do feel that there are some key events from the series that are missing. Namely, there are no higher level FF races. Now, these are really good for kind of showing some of the tuning cars, but obviously since they're not in the game either, there's not really much point. But yeah, I'll kind of list off some of the races that I feel are missing as well. There are no NA naturally aspirated races, there are no Spider or Roadster races, there's no Boxer races, and there's no mid-engine rear-wheel drive races, and there is a limited kind of four-wheel drive races. I suspect their absence is due to the fact there just isn't really enough cars to do these races, really. But yeah, just kind of doing a side topic about the individual car manufacturers. So I don't know if any of you remember this from GT4, where we go into VW and then have VW Golf races or stuff like that. These are really good, and GT7 does carry this over, as the does have some individual manufactured races. These being the Porsche races. These are mainly 911s, but it does showcase some other Porsche models like the Carrera GT and 959. There's also a Skyline race where you can zoom past everyone in Godzilla, just like this. There's also a Silvia race and a Ferrari race, but there is significantly less than in GT4. They could do some Alfa Romeo ones, they could do some Lamborghini ones, some Fords, some Chevrolet, Toyota. There's a lot. I would just like to quickly mention they have been introducing for the last probably year about these extra menus. These kind of put an emphasis on the car collection aspect of the game. I wouldn't say they're a replacement for the campaign, but I guess Polyphony Digital thinks they are, so there we go. These can offer some, nice rewards, and they are some extras to boost the game's content, really. So yeah, they are quite nice. Now let's talk about some of the extra stuff that, the GT series is known for, really. So first off, talking about the licenses. Now, I do like the licenses in the GT games. So yeah, first of all, both GT4 and GT7 obviously both feature license tests, which is good. The GT7 ones are very similar to the older ones of the series, and I do think they've done a good job in capturing the style of the older games. As you can see, they've got this purple Skyline license, which is kind of reminiscent of some of the older licenses in the series. But it's nice that we also have a master license in GT7. This is an additional set of more difficult licenses, boosting the total licenses from 25 to 50. Overall, both games have a healthy selection of licenses to do, increasing in difficulty, and I think GT7 has lived up and even gone above the expectation and tradition. And has obviously, done and is a lot better than I think me and most people expected. So I'd consider this to be a big win, and obviously fair play to Polyphony for nailing that. Also the mission races. I know the older games had a lot of these, GT4, GT5, GT6. Disappointing in GT7, I do have to be honest. While I think GT4s are a lot better, GT7 does have them. But the reason why is because firstly, the quality and quantity is disappointing. Now, it'd probably be no surprise if I told you GT7 has a lack of content in the mission department as well. However, also the quality of these feels not the best. I put on here that it's almost feel like a copy and paste of each other. As you can see, they kind of add the drag races and also the pass on every single level. Just it gets a bit more difficult, but there's no real change in the mission type. Really, you've got the traditional cone, the pass, the race, and drag race. That's basically it. I feel like they kind of missed out and didn't do a very good job there, I do have to be honest. The ones from GT4 were a lot better, a lot more engaging. They do award some prizes, which is pretty good, but I feel that they could be a bit more generous and obviously include actually some more races. However, one of the best things about GT7 is the photo mode. I think the photo mode in this game is unmatched. You know, Polyphony really cares about this and the players really take advantage of it. There's some insane photos I'll put on the screen. I use it to make some of my thumbnails for my YouTube videos. And yeah, the cars come out crystal clear. You can get racetrack, countryside, the whole lot really, and it's just really good. GT4 does have it, but I think it's good that as camera quality has got better, you know, every game improves on it. So I think while it hasn't done anything insanely good, this game is obviously a step in the right direction, which is good. And I'd also like to talk about the kind of lack of arcade mode in the GT series. So the lack of arcade mode in GT7. In the older games, you probably remember I spoke about it before, how you could choose, you know, whatever car you wanted to drive, got different races and do that stuff. Now we have the quick race feature, but besides that, there's just not really much there, to be honest. I think they once again missed an opportunity on that. You know, it's really good for kind of, I don't want to grind for 10 hours to get this Ferrari, but I can just drive it for 10 minutes on a quick race, and you know, it's a lot more engaging, I think, as well. And I feel like once again they've missed out there. Also, the music in GT7 is very good. I must admit, they always do a good job on the music. I'll put some GT4 music on now, show a little selection. I will put some GT7 ones to compare it to as well in the background if I can, but the trouble is most of them are copyrighted. But yeah, it does have some nice jazz music similar to the style of GT4, just a little bit different, which is obviously good. I think that marks the end of the kind of single player stuff. Yeah, let's not talk about that. So anyway, moving on to the multiplayer. So obviously GT4 doesn't really have a multiplayer. I know the purple guy in his video talked about how it kind of got modded to be online. GT7 doesn't have that problem because it was online by day one. And they kind of do, this is where most of their effort goes in, to be honest. They have, in all fairness, they do have a lot of good multiplayer stuff. Firstly, they have championships, and these are very well structured. You can rent out cars. I usually just rent out cars to go and use them for stuff that isn't the championships. But you know, the points carry over different drives from all over the world. You can do obviously it's what the Gran Turismo movie is based on. Very good, very engaging. Also the time trials, these put you in a random car, random track, and obviously you compete against everyone in the world to get a good time. The rewards are quite healthy, you know, it is quite fun. And the selection of cars is quite good. I know we had the Ford Roadster, which was nice. Then we went straight into the Maserati MC20. A great selection of cars. I don't really like the Group 3 and Group 4 ones very much, but that doesn't really come up that much. And I know Jeddah Racing usually wins them all. But yeah, the time trials are a good addition to the game. Also, the online lobbies, I don't really use them anymore, but I know some people do for, you know, going online, quick races. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. The quick races online, like, it's basically just the time trials, but instead it's a race rather than a time trial. These are, you know, these kind of time trials and quick races, just quick content that just gets the brownie points type of thing, really boosts up the popularity of the game, gets people involved, competing with each other, which is really good. And some of the leagues which feature in the GT So these ones aren't done by Polyphony, but you can get external stuff on Discord. I'm part of a couple that run regular events using the lobby feature that was previously talked about. And yeah, these can be found quite common. Most of them are Group 3, but you can get some ones that do the good revival. I know I've done Good Racing Championship. That was for one of the... So yeah, overall I think GT7 is a good game. If we got the GT7 that we have now at launch, I'd say it was very good. However, at launch there was just too much stuff missing. The mission races were completely depleted. Time trials weren't really a thing. The quick races weren't very good. Wasn't really many cars in the game, hardly any races, no extra menus, no really good tuning shop because that had to be updated. So, in my opinion, I do feel as though the game was slightly rushed, but then they had 9 years to develop it. So I don't really know what they were doing that whole time. I think GT7 does have some innovative things. I think it is quite a forward game. I think, the attention to detail just overall in the game is unmatched, but I think Kaz and the PD and Gran Turismo team have really switched the focus of their game. They're going from a video game with sheer quantity and a bit of quality to an art form with a lot of quality but not much quantity. Now, I'm not trying to say it's a bad or good direction for the game to go in, but I'm just saying that's kind of an obvious change. So yeah, let's link this back to the original question. Do I think GT7 is the best game in the series? I've got to be honest, no I don't. I still think GT4 is the best in the series. I think you could argue GT2 is, but other than that I don't think there are any other contenders. GT1's not really fair. My favourite is GT3, but honestly, as we all know, it's not as good as GT4. GT5 was very good. GT6 had the amount of quantity that game had was insane, but in terms of quality, it's not the best. Let's not talk about GT Sport, and GT7 is getting there, but I think it's like GT3, it's just not the best. So yeah, in answer to the question in his video, Purple Guy, yes, GT4 is still the best, and GT7 doesn't really come anywhere near. If you've got a PS4, I'd suggest getting it on PS5. I would not buy a PS4 just for this game, to be honest, unless you're a serious GT fan. Yeah, let me know what your thoughts in the comments, I'll be happy to know. And I do think this game is better than Forza Horizon 5, I'll leave that one. And Forza Motorsport 8. So yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, goodbye.